Well, folks, I'm not really sure what to say. This is probably one of the most peculiar ideas I've ever come up with. A few days ago, I had a dream, and in this dream, I was walking around a train show, and I came up to this one vendor who had all their stuff laid out on the corner of a table. And right before their setup, there was another setup, and between them there was this box, kind of like a stationary box, and it was turned at an angle. And when I came around the box, there was 3 engines. One of them was a little 040 painted up like a Tyco Canadiana. The second one was a Tyco Canadiana shark nose. And the third one was a massive Tyco Canadiana, like a Centennial Tyco Canadiana. And I was just blown away by it in this dream. And I asked the guy who was selling it how much he wanted for it. And I can't remember, it was like $40 or something in the dream. And it was just crazy, and I bought it. And I was just really happy with it. And it was so funny, because after this, I haven't really stopped thinking about this massive Tyco Canadiana. Like, it's such a bizarre thing. So I kind of realized maybe this is something that needs to exist. And funny enough, throughout this whole time frame, my local hobby shop has had an Athearn Centennial, which they've been trying to sell for months now. And I figured I'm going to see if they take a certain offer for it. And if they take that, I'm going to make the giant Canadiana that I saw. Now, if you guys don't know what a Canadiana is, it's one of these weird suckers. They made these, I believe, during the 70s there. There was an American version also made. They're really quite cool. Not everybody, I don't think, likes them because they're sort of unusual, but I think they're really cool. So, yeah, so that's what a Canadiana is. As for the locomotive itself, it's an Athearn. Now, they wanted $60 for this thing, and I felt like that was a little bit high. So I was going to see if they would take $50 for the unit, because it is a nice unit and it does have all the other parts. So I offered the guy $50 after they sent it on a test run, and they said yes, so I wound up buying the thing. Now, it's quite a pretty engine, if I'm honest. I actually kind of like the current paint scheme. I mean, I really want the new Canadiana, but this is a cool engine. This in itself is not very prototypical, though, which makes it perfect, I think, to turn into another Canadiana. I'm not turning a Centennials. Maybe this is another variation, but as far as I can tell, this is a shortened Centennial. So anyway, we're going to be painting this thing up to look like a Canadiana. So we're going to be adding on some of the kind of stripes and the Canadian flag somewhere on here, you know, all the rest of it. And I think we'll make something kind of cool. So just for comparison, here's my Bachmann Centennial. And as you can see, it's about maybe an inch or so, maybe a little bit more than an inch longer than the conventional one. And as far as I know, Bachmann did make it the prototypical length. So I guess Athearn shrunk theirs a little, probably to help it corner. This is a very unusual paint scheme too. I assume it must have had something to do with when they were very first designing these locomotives. Because you can see we've got EMD, GM, type of loco on the back. So it's already kind of peculiar, if I'm honest. But it's going to be even more peculiar, but even more interesting as a Canadiana. To begin, we're going to remove this shell. Just going to lift up each of these tabs here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so that's sort of interesting. We've got 2 flywheels and really just a basic Athearn motor there. And the blue chassis. So we're going to disassemble the whole thing. Luckily, the person who originally owned this evidently didn't decorate it with all the stuff, so we don't have to take really anything off of it. I guess we can probably try to get the windows out. That would be a good project. But other than that, this thing's pretty much ready to go. Now, when I went stripping the paint off that Lionel beacon, a lot of you guys said that paint stripper is not very good for your skin. Frankly, you're probably quite right about that, so this time, I'm ready. Anyway, got our Eco Paint Stripper, or whatever this thing's called, and we're just going to get the old paint off this. Alright, so we've got the paint stripped, and I think it turned out pretty well. I have to admit it was a little difficult removing that paint because it was kind of cool looking, but anyway, it's gone now. So we just need to let the water dry from cleaning off the old paint and paint remover. And speed up that process, we're going to use this vent, which happens to be quite conveniently located near where I work there. We just put the unit up there and let it air dry. And don't think I went forgetting about the top to the cab there. I'm going to get that all cleaned off there. You can see the paint remover is doing its job. I'll just work at that for a few minutes and it will be just as good. Alright, so we've got our shell all prepped for painting. Now I'm going to show you guys exactly how I'm going to do this. Here's my paint. It's a matte white. We're going to get a glossier look in the future by putting a clear coat over it, but for now we're just going to use this. First of all, before you start painting, always shake up your can. I've already shaken this one up quite a bit off camera, so it's pretty good. And the second thing, this is something I always do, is take a few practice shots there just to make sure you got anything out of the tube there, and you can see it's spraying pretty evenly. Now, you always want to spray from far away and very thin amounts. And it's just a nice light coat. And this will just guarantee that it goes on evenly, because if you bring the nozzle right up like that, you're not going to get an even coat. So this is from, I don't know, 12 inches away maybe. Alright, so I think that's good enough as a first coat, so we'll let that dry, and while we let that dry, we'll disassemble our locomotive. And before I forget, see how I'm going at different angles too? I don't want to miss a spot or make it uneven. And that's good enough. So as far as this locomotive goes, it actually does run okay, but we're going to disassemble it so that we can get to this chassis. But you know, while disassembling it, obviously when we go to reassemble it, we'll get to re-lubricate it, etc. So in theory, this thing will run even better once we're finished it. So that's good news there. This is a bit of a different design than a usual Athearn, I have to say. This is a fairly old locomotive. You can tell by the steel wheels. So there's one truck. And we'll see if we can get that other one there. There's the other truck. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't know how to get these motors out. I've never really had to. What I'm going to try doing is just pressing on the bottom here, because I'm worried if I just try to pull up there, I'm going to break that little nylon, I think it's nylon bracket. It's stuck. We got one of them. Close enough. Get the other one out. Alright, so with all that out of the way, I'm pretty sure we can strip the paint off of this. I'm not entirely sure though, so we're just going to go at it. I'll put my gloves back on and I'll just do this whole thing off camera, because this is probably not going to be the most exciting part. I'll let you guys know how this turns out. Well, you guys will see it, I guess. Alright, so as it would turn out, Athearn took their painting very seriously. This is some extremely thick paint on here. I tried, of course, going at it with the paint remover. That didn't do much of anything. I tried kind of carving away at it with a knife. That didn't do much. I tried going at this part with a random orbital sander, and that removed it a little bit, as you can see, but really not the progress I was hoping for. So between you and me, we're just going to leave the original paint on here and just paint over it, and it should be okay. Here's some nice and glossy black paint, and I'll just take our little spray there. And I'll just kind of go at this, put a few layers on it, but one piece at a time. And I think it's about time to put another coat on this lot here. Alright, so it's now a couple days later, and I've put multiple coats on this thing, somewhere in the range of about 5 different really light coats, and I'm really happy with how this thing turned out. As you can see, all the details are all still quite visible, and I think in general the paint went on very well, so I'm really happy with that. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be masking it up in preparation for all the red paint details. And that's going to be interesting because obviously we want it to be nice and even as well. Now I did buy proper painter's tape, so hopefully that will go easy on the current layer of paint. And if we put it on there right, it should make the red areas appear quite good, and it will prevent the red paint from getting onto surfaces which it's not supposed to. So anyway, we'll see how that all goes. This should be interesting. But if it turns out right, I think we're going to have a really cool looking locomotive. Here's the paint I chose. I think it's a nice Canadiana red. So just take that off. Some practice shots. I've already shaken the can quite a bit. Alright, we've got the unit all taped up, so I guess we'll see if I did this right. Alright, so I've now given the paint plenty of time to cure. It's probably been about 12 hours since I last painted this, and I'm pretty happy with how the paint looks so far. But the real question is, how did the masking tape do? So we're going to remove that. If I'm honest with you guys, I'm a little nervous, but I guess there's only one way to find out how I did. Holy crap, guys. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. It did leak through in a few places, but nothing too severe. I'm really happy with that. Yeah. You can see I tried to get the line so it'd follow along here, and it left a perfect line. Well, that's good. We just need to get those classic stripes on. I want to put 2 of them here, Canadian flag, or Canadian leaf, sorry. Little stripe here on the back. Do that on both sides, and then right here on the front, another leaf. Once that was done, I needed to figure out a way to get the red stripes on the locomotive. To do this, I printed out proportionately scaled images of the real stripes, which I could then cut out of the paper and turn into stencils for the locomotive. The stencils were also using adhesive paper, so I could stick these directly onto the locomotive and paint over them. Here are the results. I did a similar technique to get the maple leafs on, and I'm pretty happy with the results, so I'll just let you guys see the final results for yourself. Well, folks, it's been several days since we started working on this project, and we've made a ton of progress on it. But last night, we finally got the unit back together and got the finishing touches on the paint done, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. So without further ado, let me introduce the world's largest Canadiana. I'm thrilled with how this whole thing just turned out. It was a little bit difficult getting the little maple leafs on it, but over time I was able to make little stencils that would go over each of the stripes to get it into the right spot. And once we got those made, I just sprayed over them, and they're not flawless, but you know what? That to me adds character. It's good enough. And character is kind of what these locomotives are about, in my opinion. They're fictional locomotives, so they don't have to be 100% perfect. But I've got this thing to a level which I'm very pleased with. So anyway, without further ado, why don't we take this thing over to the track and see how it runs? Because this is an Athearn engine, and when I reassembled it, I put fresh oil in it, So I think it's going to be a very good runner. So let's test it. Alright, so we've got her all set up on the track, and I think it's looking really good. So let's give her some power to mark the maiden voyage of this locomotive. Yeah. So that right there is at full tilt, and I think it's geared for less speed and more torque. So the motor is definitely revving high in there, but it is a very good runner in my opinion. So anyways, with that, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. This has really been quite a special project.